that Tibet, as I saw it, was gradually going through this process of degeneration, particularly as far as the spiritual practice is concerned, that when Tibet become isolated country, has no outlet or inlet for other inspirations of world outside China or India, then this isolation of trying to maintain its own inspiration is become kind of purely process of incubation, and there's no fresh air or fresh situation involved. Moreover, that particularly the practice of meditation and living life of basic sanity is somehow waning. And in fact, it seems to be that's one of the reasons why invasion of communist China took place, because there was no health, no basic character in the country, and the whole thing is beginning to break way. And the monasteries involved more in building greater big temples and building multiple story images, golden roof, brocade robes, and all sorts of things have developed. There's more attitude of grandeur rather than simplicity.
Near Lhasa, the capital, stands the Potala, main shrine of Lamaistic Buddhism, repository of religious scriptures and treasures, an architectural masterpiece for the Asian world. Founder of the Tibetan religion in the 6th century was the Indian teacher Padmasambhava.
Wherever there is a kind of dogmatic church, then a church becomes more important than its teaching, which that we all know. A similar thing could have happened in Tibet, and it did happen.
Tibet was occupied by the armies of communist China, ending a long period of Tibetan self-rule. Greedy for conquest, the communists wanted mastery over the land and soul of Tibet.
Any civilization is completely brought up and developed through basic formal discipline of anything. And when discipline begin to not play an important part, and when person begin to relax, and somehow that relaxation become wild rather than openness. And I think a lot of Tibetans also experience the same thing. Of course, there are quite a number of great teachers who had been able to survive this seduction and are willing to at least commit themselves to teach or share their knowledge with the world outside. And as far as Tibet is concerned at the moment, is that there is nothing as Tibet as it was or as used to be, and the whole country is being completely overrun and transformed into a purely part of communist Chinese domination. But it seems that what has been happening in Tibet is equally interesting, and it's part of the evolutionary thing that if this situation doesn't happen in Tibet, Tibet would have purely gone through a slow death of invasion of materialism. Sooner or later, hundreds of tourists will come to Tibet if Tibet wasn't invaded by communist China. National airlines of all kinds begin to come into the tourists, and the whole thing would turn into a completely inside out. So it becomes slow death. So at least in the present state there has been sudden shock that whereas those who have possessed knowledge could have come out of Tibet and able to relate themselves with world outside, and their discovery of a fresh word from medieval civilization to late 20th century situation is in itself very creative and inspiring. So perhaps it wasn't all, after all, bad at all. Friends, we might should stop a whole seminar at this point. As it turned out to be A lot of people had to make their way home, already impatient,